being a confidence player is probably one of the worst archetypes you can be as a footballer. Now, when I was younger, I was the literal definition of a confidence player, but through trials and tribulations, as the years went on, I managed to get myself out of this. I managed to, not be known as a confidence player. I managed to stop being that guy who you would consider a confidence player. And today, I'm going to be teaching you how to avoid becoming this archetype. So what is the definition of a confidence player? So a confidence player is literally a player where when things are going well for them and their team, they're all happy, they're playing well, they're basically just playing at full confidence. It's like they have a +10 to all their attributes. They start doing things that they wouldn't normally do, you understand? And everything seems good, everything feels, rosy. Everything seems like it's going well. However, the flip side of being a confidence player is as soon as something small happens, as soon as something negative happens, maybe it's a misplaced pass, maybe it's they miss a tackle and they lose out on a duel, somebody dribbles past them. As soon as that happens, their confidence literally goes from like 90 all the way down to 0, and it's like they're not even the same player. It's like the opposite effect. It's like they get a -10 to all their attributes. So literally they could be a good passer, all of a sudden every single pass is going wayward. Maybe because they gave the ball away twice at the start of the game. Maybe it's that they're a good dribbler, but because they lost out on their one-on-one duels once in a game, all of a sudden they don't want to take on their man. It's the winger who normally he's taking on his man, but then all of a sudden, for some reason, he gets the ball, takes a touch, and he's just passing it back all the time. And then you get annoyed at him because he's just not being positive. He's just being so negative, you understand? So yeah, that's literally what a confidence player is. It's a player where when things are going well, it's almost like they have a +10 to all their attributes. But when things are going bad, it's like a -10 to all their attributes, You can consider this, another word I consider for this archetype is almost like a front runner, where when their team's winning, they're talking to the other opponents, they're talking trash, they're saying how they're so good, how they're doing this, how they're doing that. But as soon as something small happens within the game, as soon as their team starts losing a couple of games, as soon as they're not performing as well, maybe it's a striker who hasn't scored in 3 or 4 games, as soon as that happens, they don't want to step up to the challenge anymore. Now their confidence is down, now their head's down, shoulders slumped. And now it's a case of like, they don't want any responsibility. They're giving responsibility to other players. They're blaming other players for things that were their fault. And ultimately, when things just go bad, their head's gone and they don't know how to just recover quickly. They don't know how to overcome obstacles, overcome setbacks. So that's specifically what a confidence player is. So me personally, around the ages of 11, 12, 13, I was a fat footballer. And I played in centre mid. I was like your quote-unquote typical, the fat DM who's got the good touch, the good shooting, the good passing, but he can't move to save his life. So I was that guy. And the thing is with me is because I knew I was fat, I would have these doubts sort of pre-game. I'd have these doubts pre-game where I'd say to myself, I hope I don't come against a fast centre midfielder. I hope I'm not in a position where I have to run. I hope I'm not in a position where my pace gets exposed, you understand? And because of these pre-game thoughts on the pitch, I would avoid doing things that I needed to do as a centre mid simply because I didn't want my pace to get exposed. So for example, let's say we had the ball and we were on the attack. So if there was a position where maybe I would pass the ball to the winger and the winger had the ball, let's say the winger takes a touch inside, instead of me saying, you know what, let me make an overlapping run on the outside of the winger, to create the overload. I would never create the overload. I'd sort of just stay in the middle like this because I was like, I can't really do that because what about if the fullback, what about if he plays me the ball and the fullback catches me easily and then takes the ball off me, you understand? There'll be little things like that. Or there'll be times where our fullback would push forward and I'd have to cover the fullback. And then as soon as I'd go to cover the fullback, I'd be thinking in my head, I hope I don't get burnt here. I hope that the ball doesn't come to this side. I hope we don't lose the ball and the ball comes to this side because I think this fullback might burn me, you understand? I don't really think I can do it. And even in situations in the middle of the park where literally a player would have the ball, maybe he's starting to drive towards me, I would stand so far away from him because I was so afraid of if I dive in and he shifts the ball one side, he's gonna burn me and I'm gonna be so embarrassed. I don't want him to be running away from me and me not being able to catch him. So I'd stand so far away, so far back from the player, and I wouldn't put enough pressure, you understand? in my opinion, you have to put enough pressure on the ball in order so your front foot you can ultimately just get a toe in there. If you can't get a toe in there with your front foot, you're too far away from your opponent. You understand? And I would just be too far away from my opponent, and this will lead to me not getting tackles in, me simply not getting close to my man, and me just making it easy for my opponent. Because when you step off someone, anyone can look good when you step off them. You understand? When you step off an opponent, it's one of them ones where it's like he's gonna look good. You actually have to go out and pressure them. But I was so afraid of pressuring them taking a touch either to the left or right, and then dribbling with the ball, and then me looking like an idiot trying to run back for them. You understand? But ultimately, I had to fix this weakness. So during COVID, I just told myself, during COVID, March 2020, at this point I was 14, and I just said to myself, look, I'm just gonna take this period to just go lose weight. I can't really do anything else. We're in the house, can't go anywhere. All we can really do is just go to the park. So me and my cousin, just every day, just grinding, in the hot sun as well. I remember it was so hot that COVID. Here's all, we were just grinding. We'd go on runs, we'd work on drills, work on the technicals, passing, dribbling, first touch, do 1v1s, all of that. And I remember by the time it got to May, I think it was like July 2021, so started in March 2020, July 2021, it got to the point where I was considered, skinny. I wasn't considered fat anymore. So, I could run, my fitness was high. I went from being literally at the bottom of the pecking order in terms of fitness for my team. I remember when we used to do like fitness drills, before COVID, I would literally be at the bottom of the pack. But then I joined a new team in 2021, and literally I was at the top of like every single fitness metric. And I realized that, now because I wasn't fat, I didn't really have any insecurities going into the game. I didn't get those nerves before the game. I went into my first game after I'd lost the weight, and I was like, I'm just ready for anything. You understand? I'm just ready for anything. You understand? Like nothing really got to me. Even if I made a mistake, I was just like, I could just go get it back. You understand? Because literally there was no insecurity. There were absolutely no insecurities in my head. There were no glaring weaknesses in my game to the point where I was afraid of it getting exposed. To the point where I was trying to avoid my responsibilities depending on what position I played on the pitch. And in my opinion, I think that's the main thing with confidence players, is where they have a glaring weakness in their game, and when they're slightly off their game, when things are slightly not going their way, they start not wanting to take responsibility. So I'm talking about the winger with the bad first touch. So if you're a winger with a bad first touch and you have a bad first touch, what are you going to do? You're ultimately going to shy away from the ball. You're ultimately not going to want the ball feet. You're always going to try running behind, even when the other team is not playing a high line. So if the other team's playing a deep block, ultimately you're going to get neutralized. And then what happens from there? You get neutralized, and then you have to try take the ball to feet. And obviously when you're getting neutralized, you're not having a good game, you're not really providing anything. Maybe the coach subs you off, and then coach subs you off, with your teammates are getting onto you, and ultimately that's when the dip in confidence happens. You understand? Or maybe you're a striker, and you keep telling your winger to play the ball low because you don't like to head the ball. Maybe that's a glaring weakness in your game. Like, think about how many goals you're leaving on the table just because you don't want to head the ball. Or think about how many times where your winger's driving down the line ready to cross the ball, and instead of you getting in the 6-yard box for a header, you're always pulling out to the edge of the box, or you're always pulling out to the penalty spot, even when that's not free. And ultimately you're going to score less goals, and your confidence really isn't going to be there. So in order to not be a confidence player, in my opinion, you have to fix the glaring weaknesses in your game. Because ultimately the glaring weaknesses in your game, think about it, you as a footballer, the glaring weaknesses in your game are the ones where you think about them pre-game. You're sitting down in the change room and you're thinking about them pre-game. You're thinking, I hope this situation doesn't happen I hope this situation doesn't happen in the match today. I hope I don't have to do this in the match. I hope I don't have to do this in the match. You understand? You know, watching this right now, you know the situation in your head. If you have a glaring weakness in your game, you know the situation where you're dreading, where you're thinking, I hope this doesn't happen today. I hope this doesn't happen today. Like, everyone's had that, and in my opinion, that's the thing that you have to sort of work on. That's the thing where you have to just really eliminate that from your game. Because once I eliminated that from my game, once I actually lost the weight, for me, I didn't have any nerves anymore. The one thing that was sort of holding me back was, the fact that I was fat and and my lack of pace, once I actually, lost weight and actually took time to work on my speed, took time to, improve my ball carrying ability, because that's another one as well for me where I didn't want to improve my ball, I'd get the ball and I just pass it straight away. Even when I had space to drive, but because I didn't trust my pace, because I was so afraid of getting tackled, I'd literally just try to get the ball and play it, even like I said, even when I did have the space to drive. So once you actually get that glaring weakness out your game, bro, you're gonna walk onto the pitch and you're gonna feel like the man, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna feel ready for anything. You're gonna be like, I don't care who we're playing, I don't care what's going on, as long I don't care who we're playing, I don't care what's going on. Whatever happens, I believe in myself, I believe in my ability. No matter what team we play, what formation they play, I'm going to figure it out. That's the sort of confidence you want to have in your game, where there's literally no nerves, no pre-game doubt, and that's how you avoid becoming, a quote-unquote confidence player, where your confidence is up, it's down, it's up, it's down. The main problem with being a confidence player is that there ultimately is no consistency in your game. There's very rarely consistency in your game, because maybe even you're affected by, maybe you had a good training session, 2 good training sessions in the week, so you had a good game. But then let's say you had 2 subpar training sessions and now you had a bad game, because like I said, your confidence and your performances are so dependent on, good things happening to you in the game. So this ultimately leads to, instead of, when the whistle blows, instead of you, going out there, trying to go receive the ball, trying to go tackle somebody, getting into the game early, you sort of just sit back and are passive and let the game come to you. This was a problem with me, where when I was younger, I'd sort of just let the game come to me. I wouldn't, go fight for the ball, actually get into the game early, because in my experience as a footballer, the best games players have are the ones where they're involved in the action early. Understand? They're involved in the action early, and even if they lose the ball 2 or 3 times, as long as they're involved in that action, it's just like, yo, you just have to sort of clear your head and just sort of just crack on. But the games where I had my worst games were the ones where I was nervous. I was nervous to receive the ball. I was nervous to receive the ball. I was nervous to, go in and go tackle someone, jump up for that header, and it would take me like 5 minutes to get into the game. And those were the games where you ultimately have the worst games, because when you get into the action early, the nerves are settled. Once you get that first tackling, that first one header, that first pass, you just have to, once that happens, the nerves are gone, and then you just end up, playing normally, and you just end up, having a good game. The thing is with confidence players is that they let external factors decide if they're going to have a good game or not. I think that's the perfect analogy, where they just let other external factors determine if they're going to have a good game or not. Whether they had a good training, session in the week, or whether their teammates are playing well, or whether their teammates pass them the ball. It's sort of like, whatever happens, you have to have that mindset where whatever happens, no matter what my teammates are doing, no matter what opponent I come up against, no matter what system we're playing that day, you just have to be confident in your ability. You understand? You just have to go out there and get it done. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is to literally just fix that glaring weakness in your game. Just think about it in your head. You know the one I'm talking about, where you're just sitting there and you're just thinking, oh, I hope this situation doesn't arrive in the match today. Like, I really don't want it to happen, or I'm gonna get exposed, I'm gonna look like a fool. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, it could be your first touch, it could be your heading, it could be, for some reason, you don't want to take corners for your team, or you don't want to do certain things. Maybe you're a fullback and you don't want to get forward because your crossing is so terrible. So that means even when you have the chance to overlap, you're not overlapping for some reason. And I'm just like, yo, that's holding you back so much. That fear of overlapping, and putting in crosses. Think about how many assists you're leaving on the table. Think about how many goals you could be providing for your team. Think about how you could be an outlet for your team. How you could actually become, a player who's never drops. Because if you're not there, the team has no outlet. You could be that type of fullback, but your fear, because you don't work on your crossing, because your crossing is so poor. And you're so afraid of embarrassing yourself by putting in a bad cross. That's what's holding you back. And I think so many players have that one thing where it's like, yo, I don't want to do that, I'm embarrassed to do that. Some players, even in the warm-up, don't even want to take shots because their shooting is so bad. I'm talking about things like that. You see, everyone's taking shots in the warm-up, and then there are certain guys who, they don't really want to shoot. You know what I'm saying? They don't really want to shoot. Or it's sort of a thing where it's like, they're going to shoot, but they already have it preconceived in their head, oh, I'm probably not going to score. It's certain things like that, because when you get into a match, think about it, when you get into a match and you're in that position, edge of the box, you're going to hesitate to shoot. Sometimes you just got to you just gotta hit it. And if you're not good at, and if you're just generally not good at it, then you have to work on it, you know what I'm saying? You have to work on it, so you're never in a position where you're afraid to do stuff, you're hesitant on the pitch. You never want to be hesitant on the pitch. You want to be decisive in everything you do, and yeah, that's how you avoid being a confidence player, and that's how you become a consistent player in your game. So that's the video for today. I hope you enjoyed. I'm JT, and I'm out.